The theme of this weekend's update is failures. Like what's happening and why, what's growing, what's not growing, what can I learn from it, maybe fix it next year, can I get anything in going in this year? Like that's the theme. I was out here planting a few things. I got some local natives from a local at the farmer's market, and I wanted to start to establish them in my front yard. And I came outside, and let me tell you, I planted nasturtiums from seed. And I was just driving in the country, and someone has a farm and they were selling plants. So that's where I've got some of my plants from. And this person was very like a Debbie Downer, like everything I say. She was like, oh no, do this, and oh no, do this, and oh no, do this. And I'm like, I'm gonna fuck up sometimes till I learn stuff. Plus you can't tell me exactly what to do on my land. And one of the things she said was like, you have to soak nasturtium seeds for 24 hours. And I was like, too late, they're in the ground. And then she said, I started 30 and I got 3 plants. And I put in 2 packs, which is not a ton of seeds because nasturtium seeds are kind of big. And y'all got to see what I got going. Nasturtium. Nasturtium. Wait for it. Wait for it. Oh my gosh. They doing it over here. They happy. This is mountain mint, which is a native type of mint. And I got butterfly weed in there. 2 of my ground cherries are good. This one's mad at life. So that's the update on the front yard. I'm so excited. I don't know what's going to happen with those nasturtiums. Just because there's a couple leaves doesn't mean anything, because I have definitely had stuff show me a couple leaves and then go nowhere. But what if it goes somewhere? They taste good, I guess. I can't wait to eat them in a salad. And those ground cherries, I don't know what's happening. That's the theme for this weekend's post. I don't know what's happening. I'm just trying stuff and see how it goes. Isn't that how you learn? You gotta learn your own land, right? And then stuff doesn't work and you try something else. So my husband and I are trying to diagnose why stuff in the couple of beds behind me aren't doing well. And I'm gonna turn the camera on him. All right, Adam, tell people what your knowledge is, why you know stuff.
Aside from growing up in the country and having a mom who gardened every year put in a big vegetable garden and flower beds. I was active in FFA in high school. It was a state-ranked rural soil jug. Basically, it's looking at the lay of the land and it's getting into the dirt and looking at the quality of the soil. What I'm looking at and what I'm thinking is that some of our plants that are not doing so well, the soil is very spongy. It's still very damp. Now, we did get a little bit of rain last night, but my take on it is that some of these plants that aren't doing so well is that the soil is just very wet and the plants are drowning.
Okay, so I'm gonna show you some of these and we're gonna talk about them. Our corn over in this bed looks amazing, and our squash looks amazing, and our beans look amazing. So what we were trying to determine is like, were you gonna feel the soil here?
So I get down in here and there's a little bit of dampness, and that's mostly from the rain. Now the soil here, there's a combination of some of the mulch compost that we had, but there's also some real good loam in there, which is, good for roots, good for drainage. The soil particles are medium sized. They're not as big as sand particles, not as small as clay particles. It really allows for good aeration and good drainage.
So these tomatillos right here, we didn't start these from seeds, we got them as plants. And if you'll notice, this is a leaf that we picked off because this is what's happening. So tell us what you think about the soil.
I think this soil here is not quite getting a good enough, not so much an instance of drainage. I think the amount of the compost material here and the mulch material, and also over here, if you look where the peppers are, the amount of straw around them, I think it's holding in more moisture than what these plants need.
Okay, and then if we look over in this bed where these peppers are not doing great, that peppers are not doing great, and also in this bed, this is where the corn is doing terribly. Why do we think the corn is doing this?
Again, I feel the soil down, and it's so much wetter and damper than what it is in the other beds. And you can just probably see visually how wet this is, but also the composition. It's more of the mulch compost, less of the topsoil. This is going to hold moisture.
Okay. So this is what happened to us last year in another part of the yard. The mulch that I got last year was leaf mold, and things sprouted as they've done in this bed over here, and they didn't do anything because I drowned them all out. And I decided to stop trying to grow because we didn't have enough money to replace it and get it looking to the right amount. And I decided to prepare for this year. So I'm going to show you what happened last year in a bed that's happening again. I planted things and they sprouted, and then that was it. And then eventually they died. So what we're ending up with again this year is it looks like it's too wet. And what I got this year was not leaf mold. I got compost, but it's all from the same tree service. So it's all from broken down trees. And the plan was to get topsoil, but I just didn't have the money for it. So I think I have a case of 2 beds that are too wet. And we are going to look around the yard and see if we can move some things. So because it's still June, I think that I've got time to get some peppers and tomatoes in. And this bed right here behind me, I actually put a lot of borage seeds in there that just decided not to come up. So it's just a little bit of mulch to cover dirt. It's not how I was trying to build a bed up there. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the new peppers and tomato in there. We really want to be making our own paprika. That's like a goal of ours. That's why I got more peppers. And that other bed, we're considering we might put squash in there because squash is so not picky about anything. Okay, 1 pepper, 2 pepper. These are both an Italian sweet pepper, and then a yellow tomato, and that's Napa cabbage. I have room for maybe 1 more thing here. So, I don't really feel bad about the failures of the couple of beds because you just gotta learn. I've never done this before, and I picked different stuff from last year, and maybe it's too wet and I'm picking things that need to be dried out. I started stuff from seed and that went really well. Then I just couldn't get them off of sprouting from the seed. So it's just a lot of stuff to learn. And also I think some of what you're learning is like, what grows great in my yard? What should I be planting? And do I need maybe next year to invest in some really good pots, like collect pots over the winter? Do I need to grow my tomatoes in pots? That would be fine too. So we're gonna maybe try to get some squash in there and just kind of see what happens. But yeah, you know, learning. Oh, my husband's off to forage a mulberry from the neighbor's front yard. Yeah. The root is like really close to the stairs, but you know, you can cut a mulberry down to nothing and it'll come right the fuck back. It don't care. So I think we can get this established in our yard.
I need you to come and hold this out of the way so I can dig.
Okay. Hold it up. Success at your catch. You don't look like you're holding a big fish. Look like you're holding a big fish. So in the end, we decided that we're just going to go ahead and cut the root a little bit, and hopefully a mulberry will reroot. I mean, these suckers are really hardy, so we have every reason to believe that they will. So we're going to go plant it in our yard and see what happens. One of the things we're trying to do in the front yard is establish brambleberries, and one of the things that we want to do in order to do that is get rid of some bushes, but they apparently are the worst. That's a fucking tree.
Yep.
What the fuck was that?
Here's whatever this is. I think possibly walnuts.
How did walnut trees get that close to a house?
They cut them back every year like bushes, is my guess. That's what.
Do we need a chainsaw?
Probably.
And we don't have one?
Nope.
So maybe we tackle this another weekend?
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
All right, let's ditch it. So we will wait to remove the stumps, and some of the brambleberries are not happy about life. Super happy about life. And not so happy. But they'll come back next year. That's just how they work. Earlier, we talked about the tomatillas and the wet ground, and they actually look a lot better right now. So I'm not gonna move them, and we're just gonna kind of let things go. But I did add some stuff to the garden. In here, where I'm not sure what's gonna happen, I've put a couple of pumpkin seeds because I think pumpkins will like the wetness. Hoping this pepper does what it needs to do. Waiting to see if these tomatoes do anything, but not putting anything back in there. Happy tomato. Here, I think next week we'll put squash in here. This eggplant is still happy. See, the tomatillas look happier now that they've had some time to dry out. So we'll see what happens. Got a pepper for there. These tomatoes are happy. And that's our mulberry. I really feel like it'll come back. So, basically, it's just more experimenting, letting things go. We might look into possibilities for fall crops in some of these beds. I'll be able to afford topsoil later in the summer. And over the winter, I'd like to work on making these proper raised beds with some type of walls to help with that. And I think I'll get a few more plants next weekend, and then it'll just be a matter of waiting patiently, maybe, and potentially focusing on other perennial aspects of our garden. Yeah, it's just a lot of like, let's let things go, let's wait and see, maybe plant a couple of things, and then let's work on some structural improvements and that kind of stuff, like the catio. We've got plans for an outdoor cat enclosure, so maybe give this guy somewhere to hang out outside, not on a leash where we don't have to constantly monitor him and he can come in and out. Mm-hmm.